Hi guys, good afternoon, and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and welcome once again to another installment of my mini-series, How to Get Excited For, where in today's video I'll be giving you suggestions and recommendations on how to get excited for the upcoming film Warcraft in theaters next week. June 10th it finally hits theaters, and I thought I'd give you guys some tips on how to get excited for that, as we are a little less than a week away from it. So in order to get excited for Warcraft, for those of you who aren't gamers or fans of the video game or games, I don't know how many there have been, there's probably been quite a few. Forgive my ignorance, but I'm not a gamer, so I am not at all familiar with the video game, the characters or the story. In fact, my knowledge of Warcraft is extremely limited, and I honestly know what I know based on the trailers and footage that I've seen, so that's it. So if you're a gamer and you want suggestions on how to get excited for it, this may not be the video for you. However, if you're an average moviegoer who wants to get in the mood for a fun fantasy action flick, I am the man you want to listen to. So for starters, since this is it's very much in the fantasy adventure action genre, I thought I would recommend some of my personal favorite fantasy flicks. Now, of course, one of the greatest fantasy franchises of all time is The Lord of the Rings, or the Hobbit trilogy from the same director, the great Peter Jackson. Those movies are so much fun to watch, very, very long, but a lot of fun and very epic in scale. I highly recommend all of them. However, if you don't feel like watching throughout the entire series for any of them, I would just recommend my personal favorites. Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, my all-time favorite Lord of the Rings film. It has the best action sequences, the greatest battles, all of our characters coming together. You know, it's a very, very fun movie, a hell of a great time. And I would highly recommend watching this to get yourself in the mood and ready for Warcraft, since it's very similar. Humans fighting orcs, orcs fighting humans, and stuff like that. Mythical creatures fighting against humans, humans and creatures working together. You will get that in The Lord of the Rings. So I would recommend my personal favorite, Return of the King. However, if you have your own personal favorite from this franchise, feel free to indulge yourselves. In terms of the Hobbit trilogy, I really liked all three movies, but I think the one I liked the most was the third and final one. Much like Return of the King, I would recommend the Battle of the Five Armies. Again, the best action sequences, the greatest battles in the whole franchise, lots of fun, pretty much the same thing, tons of humans and different creatures coming together to unite and coming together to fight, everybody versus everybody else, and it's a hell of a lot of fun and really, really something to see. It's a great big spectacle, so I would highly recommend that film as well. Now, if you are not into the films by Peter Jackson or the Hobbit trilogy or the Lord of the Rings trilogy, fear not, I have a couple of more suggestions for you. For example, I know that a lot of you, unfortunately, this was a few years before my time, and I didn't see it till, it was like 10 or 15 years after it came out, but I know a lot of you probably grew up and watched this movie, and it's certainly become one of my personal favorite fantasy flicks, Willow from 1998. Who remembers this movie? You know, with Val Kilmer when he was still young and good-looking, and of course Warwick Davis. We all know Warwick Davis mostly for playing Wicket, the Ewok in Return of the Jedi, and the Ewok spin-offs. And it's just filled with a great cast and a great group of characters. It's funny, it's exciting, it's heartwarming, it's a fun action-adventure fantasy film, and it's like a perfect portrayal of good versus evil. Much like the other films that I recommended earlier, it's all about good versus evil, which is like one of the biggest themes for any fantasy film, in my opinion. So I would highly recommend Willow from Ron Howard and George Lucas, unless those of you are too soured with your relationship with Lucas to rewatch this one. But then again, guys, just because he didn't make the prequels good doesn't mean it affected the originals, because we still all love the original movies, and I hope most of us still love Willow. It's a great watch, and I hope you guys like it. I would recommend this one if you are not a Lord of the Rings person. Also, another recommendation I would have is another fantasy film that I finally watched again for the first time in a very long time, and it was much better than I remembered it, The Dark Crystal. Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. It's available streaming on Netflix, however, I'm sure sure many of you own it on DVD and Blu-ray and whatnot. Another great fantasy flick. What's so great about it is like it's all puppet cast. No human characters. I almost said performers. Of course there are human performers, but no human characters. All mythical creatures, from big monsters to the little friendly creatures and everything. It's a fun fantasy flick. Some scenes might be a little intense for young kids. Those of you, excuse me. Ooh. Oh my. Excuse me, sorry about that. Those of you who grew up on this movie and watched it at a young age, you probably know what I'm talking about. But it's a great film overall. I don't think it was as... I don't think it got the reception that it deserved back when it first came out, but years later developed a big following. So if you don't like any of the movies that I recommended, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Willow, whatever, then The Dark Crystal might be the one for you, because that's another good, solid fantasy adventure film, and that is quite enjoyable, and you can watch it with your family too. The other ones you could watch with your family, but some parts might be too intense for younger or older viewers. So, alright guys, well those are my recommendations for getting ready and excited for Warcraft. I hope you guys are going to give this movie a chance. I have no expectations of the sort. I mean, I kind of do, like stuff I'd like to see, but I'm going to keep an open mind, as I always do when I go to see any movie. Being not familiar with the video game, I have the advantage of being a completely open book when I go to see this, because I won't be saying, well, that's not from the game, or that's from the game, or that's not from the game, because I'll have no idea. I will have no clue. I just think it looks like a fun fantasy flick, and I hope you guys do too. Alright, you guys, thanks again for watching. Don't forget, Warcraft hits theaters June 10th in less than a week. Stay tuned for my film review regarding that movie as well. Thank you so much for watching this edition of How to Get Excited For here on the EdWord. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this one on how to get excited for many upcoming television shows and movies. Alright, you guys, have a great rest of the day. Until I see you next time, may the Force be with you.